So the story of the day is it's as if the whole football world cried out as one this week around holding the ball, and the AFL listened, and then the league acted. Is that muddier than it has been in the past in your mind?
In the 17, 18 years I've been in the league, this has been the most confused I've been with the rule.
It is hard to understand exactly what is a free kick and what's not. In this quest for black and white, we try and get away from all the grey that is AFL footy.
Yeah, 70, 80-year-old people that have been watching the game for as long as they've been alive going, I don't understand the rules anymore. We've got an issue.
The issue is with the way that we're interpreting the decisions, sort of contest by contest.
The one that gets me is the basically not disposing of the ball at all.
There's so many scenarios you see where players are just dropping the ball and it's going play on and they've had opportunity to get rid of it.
If you haven't had prior opportunity and you get tackled, blow the whistle quicker and ball it up. But if you have had prior opportunity and you get tackled, it's holding the ball.
Blowing the whistle earlier on the standing tackle to marry up with what the tribunal has demanded of the players, that's only fair. Abandon the principle to keep the ball in motion, that's nonsense. Is police the rule. And it's an excellent rule.
The risk now, though, if there has been prior opportunity, that they reward flimsy tackles, that shouldn't be rewarded. So that's going to be their challenge.
You've got to reduce his prior for his own protection, and players will respond.
No doubt there's going to be a correction in umpiring this week.
An alteration, and then we enter an adjusted world tomorrow night. The umpires boss, Steve McBurney's accepted our invitation to educate all of us tonight. Steve, it's great to have you at the desk. Welcome.
Great to be here.
Where has this change emanated from?
Gerard, what we've seen over 10 rounds of football is an increasing incidence of players being held up in the tackle, and the umpires have adjudicated, as we have for as long as the rule's been in place, reasonable time. We've given the player every opportunity to dispose. But what we've seen is the risk to players being held up and then dumped in a tackle. And the tackler is in a difficult position because if they do execute a dangerous tackle, they'll run the risk of a free kick and a report for it.
Have you heeded, I thought Travis Boak was compelling last night, 17, 18 years in the league, and he said he'd never been more confused by the way holding the ball has been adjudicated this year. Do you heed that?
So we aren't confused as umpires. We're interpreting it as per our flowchart, and we think that's been by and large consistently understood by them. But what we see is a need to modify reasonable time, and the modification has been done on that basis.
So it's been modified because of fear of injury, or has it been modified because the umpires and the AFL have realised the person with the ball's getting a little bit too much leeway?
So I think it's a little bit of both, Robbo, but it's really where do you judge reasonable time ending, and we're bringing it back because we think we've given too much reasonable time in circumstances where previously the player would be taken to the ground immediately. They're not being taken to the ground, particularly with one arm pinned. They're being held up, and that's creating a risk to the player being tackled and a risk for the tackler if they do take them to ground.
Like, is the player in the charter, 150 years, protection for the ball winner? He's got
yes.
the pill. So when I've got the bill and Gerard runs in, high tackle in the back, bang, bang, then do you decide how much time to give the ball winner the time necessary to get rid of it? Is that the issue that we're talking about now?
So it is, firstly, it's legal tackle. Tackle must be legal. So we still protect the ball player. If it's high, if it's in the back, low tackle, they get the free kick. Secondly, is it prior opportunity or not? Because prior opportunity is different. This rule only applies to immediate tackles. If he's had no prior opportunity and he's tackled, that's where the laws of the game provide for reasonable time to dispose.
Yes, and if the ball falls out, it's play on?
That's it, absolutely.
And
that's
so this is where I
say.
think people are confused that between the lack of prior opportunity, it gets knocked out or falls out, and people say that's incorrect disposal.
No, it's not.
It's not. People confuse it with he had prior opportunity. He didn't have prior opportunity.
That's correct. Whereas same circumstance happened with prior opportunity, he will be penalised for illegal disposal.
What's the risk of an overreaction in the first couple of games in this round?
So, Jared, there's always the risk that we won't get the timing perfectly right, but it's well understood by our umpires. We had a great training session last night, run by Michael Jennings, observed by the All-Australian selection panel, interestingly enough. And we're confident the umpires understand what this clarification requires. It's just a shortening of reasonable time, nothing else.
All right, so we've picked a dozen examples and we've tried to put them in all the different buckets. So some are affected by the change and some aren't. We just see clarity on those fronts. So let's start with the most celebrated of the week, which is the Mac Andrews tackle on Charlie Curnow. What would this be this coming weekend?
So at the moment, Charlie gets to there. Before he swivels back, that's holding the ball.
This is the shortening of what reasonable time represents.
Yes, it is. He had arguably 1 second too long. By the time he's turning back, we think he's had reasonable time under the new clarification.
The Aaron Norton instance, which results in injury. So Curnow, by keeping his balance, gets out of this uninjured. Aaron Norton is injured in this. So first the adjudication, and then does that cause you concern for the future?
So this one with Aaron Norton is no prior opportunity, tackled immediately, attempts to dispose, ball falls out. It is play on last week and it is play on next week.
Does that cause you concern for where the game will go?
So I think any time we see that type of injury, there's a concern. But that, unfortunately, is a byproduct of playing a very physical game, and nothing untoward in the tackle, but a tragic outcome.
I think people are confused on the spinning action and what is reasonable time, because the spin can happen very quickly.
Yes.
Compared to what now will be reasonable time. Have a look at this one.
This is Hayward.
And tell us about what you think. Mike.
What do you think, Steve?
So that is reasonable time. He has disposed within a reasonable time. No prior opportunity, tackled correctly, handballs within what the umpires say is reasonable time, both last week and next week.
Relevance of the spin of the 360 or beyond 360?
So we don't measure how far he's spun. Because of your point, Robbo, you can be spun very quickly, like in that example, or you can be spun more slowly like Curnow was. So we're just judging reasonable
That's
time.
going to be difficult. I mean, the Curnow one compared to that one, we are talking half a second. I mean, it's going to be quite a fine
So looking at both examples last night, our umpires were clear. We let this one go, it's play on. Curnow had more time than that one, and that's why we're penalising Curnow for holding the ball.
We've tried to pick one in the finest margins, so Kolodjasny and Cottrell. Cottrell stands and kicks the goal. What do you think this would be this weekend?
So we want the umpires to blow the whistle for a ball up where the ball is pinned. Arguably, this ball is pinned earlier in the tackle. That's the point at which we will blow the whistle for a ball up. If the ball spills free immediately and he gets his foot to it, we would allow the kick and allow the goal.
So that would have been a free kick or a ball up?
That would have been a ball up.
Ball up, ball pinned.
Ball pinned, ball up.
Okay.
He then manages to get the ball free and onto his foot. We would have blown for a ball up by then.
Prior opportunity, we picked this one from the showdown, which has got Ned McHenry as he takes on the tackle in front of him. Holding the ball?
So this is holding the ball and it's unaffected by the new rule. He had prior opportunities, correctly tackled, no kick or handball.
What was paid there? That was
paid as a ball up.
So that's complete. That's an error, isn't it?
So the umpire's just misjudged the fumble and hasn't seen the recovery of the fumble. He thinks it's a bang-bang play, but that needs to be holding the ball.
Chris Scott spoke about positioning of the umpires this week, and he's talking about having an umpire on the inside. The umpire on the inside would have seen the attempted handball then. Does he got merit about the placement of umpiring?
So what we try and do with our umpires is have two angles at every contest, and you will hear the umpires talking to each other on the umps comms. They are giving each other information on what they're seeing. Is the hands free? Is the ball free? Is the ball pinned? We would hope that one of the two umpires would see that and pay hold of the ball.
But neither did.
Just based on the angles, Robbo, it's in the mid-zone.
Yep.
We had an umpire inside play. We didn't have an umpire outside play for that instance.
These are reasonable times, so these were holding the ball and would remain holding the ball. So these are the two you sent out.
Yes.
Holding the ball.
That is holding the ball last week and next week.
Yep, so before reasonable time expires, before he gets it to his boot.
Yes.
And
Clearly
then,
before.
Clearly holding the ball.
Yep.
Yes. And it was paid as
Yeah.
Yep, and then Lockie Neal was the other. Breaking out of the middle tackles, and there's no disposal there at all. So
And that was paid as holding the ball, and it would remain holding the ball with an earlier whistle before Neal gets taken to ground. And that's really important, Jared, because we don't want the tackle to finish like that. We want to blow the whistle earlier to prevent the players going to ground.
lying on the ball, no genuine attempt to get rid of it, cuddling it, tucking it in under. We've chosen the Scrimshaw incident here, and then a Hawthorn player comes in over the top.
Yes.
Holding the ball.
We're balling that up
Balling it
because
up.
the ball was pinned.
Do you think players are now jumping on top there to waste time? See, I think it's a bit of a Collingwood rule that's going on in this wasting time. They sit on it, they put players over the ball. It's not just Collingwood.
I think we've got that one here, yep.
So I wouldn't attribute it to any particular team, but particularly late in matches.
Look at Maynard.
Maynard comes in late, but before Maynard comes in, the ball's pinned by the tackler. The umpire will blow the whistle for a ball up at that stage. If we see two players from the same team pinning the ball and the tackler not pinning the ball, the umpires can and will pay holding the ball.
Can or will?
Can and will.
Right, so it's still an interpretation.
It's based on the umpire being able to judge who is holding the ball in.
Do you think we have an issue in the game of players holding the ball in at the moment and not trying to get rid of it, get it out?
I think that's always been a feature of the game, and by and large the umpires do a good job of judging that on a case-by-case basis.
So the smart play on a tackler is to let the two pin it and hold with the arm up.
Hold the jumper with one hand up.
Yeah. Is this no genuine attempt, or is this pinned?
This is arm-free, no genuine attempt, holding the ball.
Yeah. So he should drop the ball to his boot to make a genuine attempt.
He just has to attempt to kick by dropping it to his boot.
So we want that as holding the
So
ball.
even if it misses the foot, that's play on.
That's play on because he's had no prior opportunity.
And he's trying to get rid of it.
That's correct. Yeah.
The O'Halloran incident, fighting tackles caught in between what that was on Saturday, what that would be this round. Ball pinned long enough to draw the whistle.
At this initial stage, the ball is pinned. He hasn't got a free arm. His arms are pinned. Then he fights through the tackle and gets his hands free. So this will be a ball up earlier in the tackle sequence. Once he gets out of the tackle and the play continues and he doesn't dispose, we would expect holding the ball at that stage.